Okay, hello to Year 10 and Year 11. This is your last revision lesson video before your exam, which is tomorrow, Tuesday the 29th at 9 a.m. You need to be at school for 8:45, ready outside the sports hall, ready for the exam, and you need to be ready for that. So please go to registration quickly, register with your tutor, and then go straight down to the exam. Make sure you've got a pen and maybe a pencil with you, and get rid of your mobile phone and be ready for the exam. The only thing I would say is make sure that you read through every question and make sure that you've made sense of it before you answer it so that you can really get the best out of it. Okay, so in my Year 11 and my Year 10 lessons today, I asked you what did you feel okay about, what did you have questions on, and what did you go, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can do it. And this was the result of it. Okay, so a lot of you were still saying that you're worried about your mind maps and your visualization diagrams and your scripts. You've done a lot on this last half term, and you've got loads in your red book, but you've also got loads of stuff on Google Classroom. So if you're not sure, go back on Google Classroom. There's loads of videos and there's loads of lessons to just refresh your memory. But there was loads of you that said that you're actually really confident with this, so that's good. So maybe if you're not sure, go and ask your friends and they'll be able to answer the questions for you. Okay, the biggest one was the file formats that you were a bit worried about, and that's because we only went over this a little bit briefly. So we're going to look at that in detail, and that comes under the same as hardware and software. Some of you said that legislation, now that's another nice word for law, so the legal side of things that we looked at the end of half term was something you weren't so confident in. There is a video that I posted up just before half term which is all about law and legislation. Go and have a look at that just to refresh your memory, but it looks at things like copyright and stuff like that. Okay, and the only other one was risk assessments. We did that in lesson. You can then go back and have a look at the risk assessments lesson. That's the same one as the legal one. And just another one on that, recce's. That's usually when you go and take photos of where you're going to go and do some filming. That will help you for your risk assessment, but also help you for your planning. So it's taking photos of the venues that you're going to be filming in. Let's look then at the hardware and software things. So version control might come up in the exam. This is when you're saving a file, and it's to allow you to stay in control of the version that you're working on. That way, if you send your script over to maybe your director or perhaps your actors, you know which ones you're sending it. So your first script that you make might be version 1. Then you might save it, and then when you've done some amendments to it and changed it a bit, then it becomes version 2. You might decide to just alter a little bit by like a character's name or a prop, and then it might be version 2.1. Okay, it can be the same whether it's a document or a PDF or any kind of file type. You just would add the V1, V2, but in the exam it might ask you what is the first, what was the draft copy, or what's the final copy, what's the most recent one that's been made. And you'd always go for the bigger number so that it helps you to know where you are and keep in control of the version you're working on. Okay? Now this has gone a bit blurry. That might mean it's pixelated, which you'd associate to a PSD file, because on Photoshop they use PSD files which can use pixels. However, if you're using Illustrator, you'd use an AI, and a vector image, which means it's a better quality. But let's have a look through these ones. So JPEG, spelt JPG or JPEG, would be used for images. XLS would be used for Excel, so spreadsheets. If you're doing a work plan or a Gantt chart, you'd use Excel. A document might be used for your script or any Word document. So it could be where you write your research up, or it could be where you summarise your ideas for the day. It could be where you put up your risk assessment, and that can allow you to do that. Some people use their risk assessments on Excel, but lots of people use Word. A zip file means that the file has been compressed. It's made smaller so that it allows you to send it from one person to another. A PNG file is often used in images so that they get rid of the background, so you can use it on Photoshop or Illustrator and the background's already deleted, so it's easy to have a really good quality image like a logo and use it quickly on another piece of work. Don't worry about the ones that we're not going through. A GIF file. A GIF file is great because this looks at a copyrighted file, so this might be something that you can't change. You see a lot of GIFs going around the internet, a lot of memes of GIFs. It might be a moving image, or it might be an image that's copyrighted, so you can't change it. So it's great for sort of protecting your work. A WAV file is used for sound waves. It's the best quality sound wave compared to an MP3, which would be least quality. But an MP3 file is smaller, whereas a WAV file is bigger. MP3 isn't as good sound as the WAV, but it's easier to email from one place to another. An AVI file and a movie file are both for movies. AVI can be used for animation as well, but a movie file, a MOV file, is the best quality kind of file. PDF is a file that can't be changed. It's used for contracts because then you can just sign it and then you make sure that things are protected. If you were to make a visualization diagram or a storyboard and you've done it by hand, drawn it out, you would scan it in and that would create a PDF file so that it is protected and it can't be changed. It is a frozen image. And then finally, HTML is used for basic web development, so websites building. So there's some file formats for you to look through. I have put on Google Classroom this as a clearer image, but this just explains why you would use it and what the limitations are. So for images, you'd look at things like JPEGs, PNGs, TIFF, PDF and GIF. Okay. If you're looking at videos, you'd be looking at MP4 and MOV. So an MP4 is a compressed file. It's a small file so that you can email from one person to the other with your MP4. Whereas a MOV file is a much better quality file. It's really good for showing your videos, but it's not easy, it's not compressed, so it's not easy to send from one place to another. And animation, you've got some here. Some people use GIFs. It's not supported necessarily everywhere, but it can work on web browsers, so it's nice and easy to use. A lot of people still use MOV for a video, which is used for video or animation. For sound and audio, I've already covered this, but you would use MP3, so it's an easy to transfer file. It's smaller, it's compressed, but a WAV file would be the better quality. And a lot of radio producers use WAV for their podcast or radio to make sure it's really good quality sound. Okay. Some of you wrote down that you weren't sure about how to interpret a client's brief or how to review a client's brief. Our client would be a company, a business, or a person that is making us create a media product. So this might be an example of a brief. We want to create a short information advert for 15 to 25-year-olds about the importance of healthy lifestyle, which can be created with our new brand of Fit Vibes food. It needs to be 40 seconds long and ready for our summer launch in May 2019. The client is McDonald's. Okay, so there's our client. And for you to get the best out of this, to review it, you need to find out, okay, does it tell us who the target audience is? If it doesn't, you need to read through the brief and think, who might the target audience be? Who would be the best target audience for this? It would also ask you to review what content is needed. So on here, it says it needs to be a short information advert. So it's an advert, but there does need to be information in there about healthy lifestyles. So that's what the content would be including. And it needs to advertise their new brand of food. Then it asks for what kind of media product are you making, what kind of format. So that would be that it's an advert and it needs to be short and it needs to be ready for their summer launch. So it would be an audio-visual advert is what they're looking for. It would specifically say if it was a radio advert or if it was a TV viral advert. So we'll go with the audio-visual to make sure that we fit in with the brief. It tells us how long it needs to be, so 40 seconds, but it also tells us when the deadline is, which is May 2019. And it gives us a little bit of extra info. So it needs to work with a summer launch, it needs to be about a healthy lifestyle, and it needs to fit with what they've got. Okay, so that allows us to review a client brief. It might be the brief is by a band, like a music band or a film, but you would always look through the target audience, the content, how they want it presented, and how any extra time or info that they need. Okay, so there are some really brief things. The only other thing that a couple of you said on this one here, let's go back to it, is not sure in terms of how to review a pre-production document, which is LO4. This is simply things like what is good about something, what is bad about something, and what could do better. So if I was to maybe look at a, let's have a look at this one. Okay, so let's have a look at this. This is a risk assessment. I might look at this and I might say, right, what's good about this risk assessment? Okay, so I can say, well, it's clearly laid out, that's good. And what it's also done is it's considered in detail one thing that could go wrong in terms of risk assessment. What's bad about it? Well, it's got gaps. There's only one thing that's wrong with it, so we maybe need to think about other options. Okay, it also, what else? It's not very detailed in terms of what extra things could be added or done, and it's not clear as to what would be done in terms of harming or property damage. And then finally, I'd say, what do I need to do better? So I know to make it better, I would need to fill in extra boxes, I'd need more detail, I'd need to think of more contingencies, plans, you know, plan B. That was how I'd do it. So literally, LO4 is how to review what has happened. Is it good or bad? What is good? What is bad? And how to make it better. That's all you need to do in that exam. It sounds harder than it actually is, okay? I think that's everything. You are going to be fine. Honestly, you guys are going to be great. What you need to do is read through those questions clearly. You need to breathe. You need to make sure you've brought a pen, and you just need to try your best. Okay, this mock exam is important because it's going to help you ready for your exam that's in January, okay, your final exam. You are going to be amazing, but you need to make sure that you've revised tonight and that you're feeling calm for tomorrow, okay? Have a good exam. I'm going to be around after school if you need me, and you're very welcome to come and use the computers or go through anything, all right? But have a great exam, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.